তোর কি নিয়ে আর কতই বাজে হবে।
আমারটা ভালো আছে।
হ্যাঁ, আমার তো মানে কফি ফিল্টার করতে করতে কালা হয়ে গেছে। জানোস না এমনি
বেশি
খেলে কফির স্মেল বের হয়।
বেশি চিনি খাইলে তো কিডনির কোনো সমস্যা হয় না, তাই না?
না,
কি হয়?
জেনারেলি না। চিনি হচ্ছে ইয়ার বেশি গ্লুকোজ, ওটা হার্টের জন্য খারাপ আই থিঙ্ক।
Diabetes.
There's also that. সুগার অ্যাকচুয়ালি অ্যাডিকটিভ সাবস্টেন্স। তুই লাইক 1 উইক যদি পুরো সুগার একদম পুরাই বাদ দেস, লাইক পাউরুটি টারুটি যেগুলোতে সুগার থাকে ওগুলো সহ বাদ দেস, লাইক তোর উইথড্রয়াল সিম্পটমে ভুগবি। এন্ড দ্য থিং
Can
ইজ সুগার
verify that.
অলমোস্ট আমাদের সব ফুড স্টাফে আছে। লাইক সারাপুর কি তোর ট্রাই করছিল সামথিং, লাইক কেমনে ভেরিফাই করস?
লাইক আমি তো যখন চিকেন করতাম তখন তো লাইক সুগারি শেট একদম খাইনি, লাইক কোল্ড ড্রিঙ্কস
হুম,
না, সকালে তো ডেইলি চা খেতাম তাও বাদ দিয়ে
হুম,
দিছি।
বুঝছি।
সুগারি স্টাফ মোস্টলি সবাই ট্রাই
সুগার
করছে।
অলমোস্ট সবকিছুর মধ্যেই লাইক মানুষ স্নিকিং করে দেয়, লাইক তুই ব্রেড খাইতে যাবি ওর
ও,
মধ্যে সুগার আছে, তুই ক্যাচাপ খাবি ক্যাচাপের মধ্যে অনেক সুগার থাকে।
ভাই পুরো গ্লুকোজ জিনিসটাতে সুগার, তো পুরো রব জিনিসটাতে সুগার, তুই কি খাবি না?
বাট জিনিসটা পুরো লাইক এমন না যে তোর ওটা সার্ভাইভালের জন্য নেসেসারি, লাইক ওইটা যদি পুরো কাট অফ করিস লাইক তুই ওভারঅল হেলদিয়ার হবি। লাইক অনেকে ওই লাইফস্টাইলে যাচ্ছে। ইনফ্যাক্ট ওরা ফ্রুটসও ফরগো করে যেগুলো তার কি ন্যাচারালি আছে, সুক্রোজটা থাকতেছে, ওই অ্যাপেল ট্যাপেল এন্ড স্টাফ।
এই রাশে তুই বুঝতে বুঝতে এইটা দেখো না।
দেখি না কি হয় এখানে, ওই রাজা বুঝতেছি না।
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ।
আচ্ছা, কি লাইক র্যান্ডম একটা ক্লাসের মধ্যে ঢুকে এগুলো করতেছে,
ইয়ো,
ভিয়েতনামিজ প্লে করতেছে।
ও
দেখি প্রফেসর গাই।
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ।
আচ্ছা,
আমরা কই গেলি?
কি দেখতেছে বুঝতেছি না।
সেম।
One of those
আমরা কই
things
গেল?
are key to complex to comprehend. Comedy on a higher plane, but their mortal minds have limited capacity, not enough to process this stuff. আচ্ছা,
এটা লাইক ব্ল্যাক
black guy who pretends to be Asian.
ও
Like a professional Nigerian prince impersonator or something.
এই কেউ আসে না কেন? আমি
Invite the সবাই
ডেথ ম্যাচে ঢুকলাম।
Haven't heard that funny now, man.
Hey guys, and welcome to my channel, Time has been a window. Now those of you guys who have no idea who I am, I'm an ex-Counter-Strike pro known for my reaction time and mid-picks on DDoS. Now is it just me, or are operations coming around faster and faster nowadays? I mean seriously, it feels like the last operation just wrapped up a couple months ago. Now usually I look forward to these operations, but not this time. They did something that I'll talk about a little bit later on in this video. But before I get to that, let's go over the update notes. Operation Riptide. Introducing Operation Riptide, featuring new maps, new own 10-man pug server. Short competitive. Added the option to select a preference for match. This feature deathmatch, team deathmatch, and free-for-all deathmatch. Now I feel like it should have been free-for-all deathmatch this entire time, to be completely honest. Yeah, health shot after 3 kills. I believe this is the same way it's done in death. A little bit more accurate after that first bullet. Oh yeah, bring back the source deagle, baby. Next up. This is because of several factors. One, Counter-Strike is a game where you need to use your hand-eye coordination to aim accurately and take down your opponent. Now the riot shield pretty much makes anyone invincible when you attack them from the front, unless they open or shield. Right now, it's only been added to casual hostage map groups. I feel this is because it's in a testing phase.
I'll get him looking the wrong way.
Forget Hammerheads, guys! Concentrate on the fire! Magia territory!
Hammerheads guys fighting the rest of the Magia is like coming to a party where you hate everyone.
It's the wrong side! Incoming! That spider thing!
You keep beating each other up. I'm just expediting the process.
Blast over there!
Lecimy to bokiem.
Neither side has really fallen short on manpower, huh? More Magia thugs. Huh.
But the Age of Ultron was only beginning. Fascinating.
চলে গেছে দিক থেকে আমি একটু কফি নাক দিয়ে খাওয়া সুস্থ হচ্ছি হাতি পেইন পার্সেন্ট
or evil tone to it. In fact, when we thought we were meeting the villain, we got a brother from another mother instead. I'm gonna break it down scene by scene, and if any scenes happen to have an Easter egg or a detail that I caught in slow motion, I'll explain that along the way. But before I begin, please spare me 34 seconds to thank today's sponsor, Old Bloom and Taika Waititi all come back to reprise their previous roles. This episode asks the question, what if Thor were an only child? Doesn't even exist in this universe. In the sacred timeline, it's only after Thor gets banished by his father and loses all of his powers, that's when you learn beat Thor that we've seen at the beginning of Thor 1 is what we get for the entirety of this episode. It opens exactly the way we've seen in live action, with Jane and Darcy waiting on a van observing an anomaly. They then hear their laptop beeping, which ensures Jane is right. An alien is on his way to Earth. Bells. Van Allen belts are an invisible magnetic force field surrounding our planet, protecting us from harmful solar wind that could potentially annihilate Earth. So to be able to see this in an animated show, where they could basically show us anything and get away with it, but Marvel still made sure to show us accurate scientific details. Jane is trying to reach the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. aka Nick Fury, but they of course don't listen to her, thinking she is bluffing. We then see Thor arriving in Midgard, specifically Las Vegas, along with the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif. But unlike any other alien invasion, this one is really different. You notice one of the bystanders is wearing a pineapple t-shirt. This could be a nod to Taika Waititi's quote from Avengers Endgame, where he wore a similar sort of t-shirt. The Watcher then explains what really went different in this universe. He tells us how things panned out in the main timeline versus this one. But notice as he starts to talk about the main timeline, he physically turns his head and looks in the opposite direction, meaning surrounding him is the multiverse, and wherever he looks, he sees a different timeline. And for that, he had to physically shift his view. Now, while the Watcher explains how things unfold in the main timeline, we discover that Kid Loki once used the casket of Ancient Winters to playfully freeze his brother Thor. This is of course the same casket through which Loki finds out his true identity in the main timeline. We learn that in this universe, Odin returned baby Loki to his actual parents, and that's how Thor never got the character arc he would have gotten otherwise. Odin then falls into his Odin sleep, and Mother Frigga takes off to enjoy some time with her sister. And I like how even Odin needed 3 handmaids to sing in the background in order for him to fall asleep. We of course saw something similar in Thor Ragnarok. And notice the way Thor is sitting here with his legs crossed. Even at a moment where his father is essentially going to sleep for almost 1,000 years, he didn't forget to sit in style. This small detail establishes that for this version of Thor, style and charisma are all that matter. So with Odin and Frigga both gone, Thor is left alone to fill his father's shoes. But as he doesn't have that much experience about how everything works, Frigga tells him to study the 9 realms and learn while she gets back. And she specifically says,
No parties.
Of course, mother.
Thor saying of course here gave me the same vibe as this one. Now what Thor plans on doing is partying, but how can he do that when Heimdall is almost always keeping an eye on him? So he decides to go to a planet so backwards that even Heimdall wouldn't even bother looking. And that planet is of course Midgard. Now while they were walking, it was debunked by Hela, who said that in the background we can see an infinity gauntlet. In the main timeline it was debunked by Hela, who said this is a fake gauntlet. Cut to Midgard, where the party is going on exactly the way every comic book fan would imagine. We again see the guy with the pineapple t-shirt now partying with Lady Sif. Now this beer stein in Lady Sif's hand looks different than the other two. It's because she brought this all the way back from Asgard. Not only her, even the Warriors 3 and Thor himself have all brought their glasses along with them. That's why everyone else has regular looking mugs while theirs look different. Well, some may think this is a reference to the ancient one because it ends. And that's the reason they were brought here in the first place. Now in this shot, we kills a drink before it ends. And that's the reason they were. Jane then figures out the first big smile on his face, and played by Seth Green. He's here probably because in this universe, the Collector didn't put him in a cage. We see Thor having a laugh with Skrulls, who he commands to copy his look. While some may get intimidated by this, but this Thor enjoys it. It's because all he can think about is himself. And then we get this joke at the expense of Natalie Portman's height. Thor offers Jane some food, and then we meet the Grandmaster for the first time in the series. Jane asks Mother Frigga asked him to study the 9 realms.
Do all geniuses have such deep
and almost everyone party like there's no tomorrow. And we get our very own MCU Grandmaster, who shows his passion for spinning records. And if you watch it in slow motion, you'll notice how Thor was also spinning his hammer while dancing. We then see Nebula is playing dice, and she's playing to win an eye. So in this universe, she received the same sort of treatment as in the main timeline. I just wonder how would this version of Thor react if he sees this version of Nebula in front of him. We get some more cameos from Valkyrie and Drax, and somehow we end up with Darcy marrying Howard the Duck in Vegas. I mean, Howard my dude has been maintaining some level since 1986. And notice this Elvis impersonator officiating this wedding. He looks awfully similar to Kurt Russell, wouldn't you think? I mean, the resemblance is very unlikely to be coincidental, given to Thor picking up Thor's hammer. Now notice how smooth Thor's tattoo is compared to Jane's. Jane is almost bleeding and got some blisters. Another small detail showcasing their different levels of pain tolerance. Now I thought Thor may have threatened the people inside the tattoo shop to get these tattoos, but it seems as though this particular shop is giving out discounts if you're a couple. And if this Jane is anything like we've seen in live action, then you know that she isn't that financially well off. So maybe they both got tattoos together because that way they could get the couple discount. Cut to the next morning where everyone is suffering from a hangover. Now because Jane tried to warn Shield Infinity War, we see Manon. Now listen carefully what Nick Fury says as Korg rams into him. I tried to listen to it multiple times and I think he says mother I mean, of course he doesn't finish the word, but this could be a nod to the end of Hill Thor taking self-rate considering his gut is. Though this Loki is huge, but these frost giants behind him are even bigger than him in size. Probably because this Loki is still young. Speaking of which, notice how director Brian Andrews put all the characters in the shot from small to large in terms of their height. If you look at them from left to right, we then learn that despite growing up in two different worlds, Loki and Thor still consider each other as brothers from another mother. So it seems as though their brotherhood across the multiverse is so significant that even if they're worlds apart, their paths will eventually cross. We then hear a sonic boom as Captain Marvel arrives on Earth. Now out of all the crazy things that we see in this episode, having the names of countries such as France and Belgium engraved on Earth was the moment I lost it. I don't know why, but I think this was the funniest thing in this episode. Straight out of Looney Tunes, eh? But yes, this wasn't just for comedic relief though. It keeps your focus on the story, and you know at all times where the story is taking place. Captain Marvel then asks Thor to clean up the mess and leave the planet immediately, but he of course refuses, which results in this fight. Thor calls Captain Marvel a party pooper, which a lot of people would agree with for a lot of reasons. Now in this fight, Captain Marvel does end up getting hit by Mjolnir, which again establishes the fact that things are indeed different in this universe, because in this universe Thor hasn't fully grown yet. So Captain Marvel probably didn't know that his hammer can make a full stop and come back to him anytime he wants, which Thor calls the hammerang technique. Now as the fight intensifies, Loki says this.
Here we go. Here we go.
It shows his excitement, how he's counting on Thor to win. Reminds me how Loki smiled in Thor Ragnarok when Thor reached his absolute peak. And Thor was spinning his hammer so fast that it became difficult for bystanders to hold their ground. In fact, this particular bystander, who looks to be a teenager, got tossed around so badly that it took out another bystander while falling on the ground. Thor and Captain Marvel go toe-to-toe and we end up in Stonehenge. Now this place isn't new to the MCU, as Eric Selvig got apprehended from here in Thor the Dark World. Now Thor ends up tapping one of the stones, and as it falls, it creates the domino effect. Now I have a theory here, which is probably a reach, but please hear me out. Thor tapping on one of the stones sets off a chain reaction, which causes destruction to a historic place. This could be a metaphor for how one single event could set off a chain reaction that has a huge impact by the end. So it's gonna show us the final impact. The fight continues as we now move to another continent. Now notice how fast Captain Marvel is. She punches Thor to another continent, and while he's still mid-air, she punches him again on their descent. We get some epic hand-to-hand combat in the scene. Now, because of how quickly everything happens here, I had to go even slower than 0.25 speed. So at the beginning of this fight, Captain Marvel gets all charged up and goes binary, but then Thor manages to hit her first. As a result, she loses her binary form. As you can see, her eyes are not glowing anymore, but in the very next frame, she transforms into her binary form once again. Now it's not important who is more powerful here. What's important is the fact that all of the things that I just told you happened in less than a second. Now the next detail is even more fascinating. We know that Thor uses his lightning powers while fighting, which is mostly bluish in color, and Captain Marvel's kinda yellow or golden. Now notice in this fight, whenever an impact is made, Captain Marvel's energy runs towards Thor, while Thor's lightning goes towards Captain Marvel. And when it's only Thor striking at Captain Marvel, we only see lightning and no energy coming off of her. This sort of accuracy is why I love watching Marvel content in slow motion. Details in. Makes heat as long as you want and then unleash it whenever necessary. And we have always wondered, because no matter how powerful or furious with Captain Marvel, she's standing here after getting defeated. The cell phone is just as small as the tip apple. I think it's easier now. Maybe Thor will one day party so hard in Asgard that will lead to the destruction of the planet. And I absolutely loved how Surtur literally melted the right arm of the Statue of Liberty. Now the Harbour Bridge in Sydney has been turned into a dance floor, and over here we see Mantis for the first time. Cut to Thor, who is about to slide down the Opera House, but is interrupted mid-flight by Captain Marvel, and they again end up fighting each other. But luckily Jane called upon Heimdall. He brings her to Asgard and discovers Thor's life is in danger, so he immediately teleports Jane to Frigga. Now over here Maria Hill is
browser
preparing to
window
nuke both Thor and Captain
কালো
Marvel.
দাগটা
When
দেখতেছিস
asked
না?
why Captain Marvel, she says because she can withstand it.
এই
And
যে,
notice
এই যে।
as soon as Frigga appears before Thor, his
না।
facial expression changes almost instantaneously,
না,
whereas
আমি
Captain Marvel
আমার
doesn't even
screen এ
flinch.
preview দেওয়া
Thor
আছে,
lies to his
তো
mother,
দেখা
saying he
যাইতেছে
came to
না।
meet
এটা আমি
Midgard.
বলি
So now instead of fighting
এটা
Captain,
তুই
Bill
কোন
decides to put a
জায়গা
hold on the
থেকে?
nukes
আস্তে করে
agent,
Firefox
which
খুলে
Shield
আয়।
is full of at this
এইটা
point in the
কেন?
timeline.
Like,
Thor
এই যে
then
দেখ,
comes
এটা
back to the hub
Chrome এর
because
সাথে
he's a
সাথে
Hydra
ঘুরতেছে।
agent, which Shield is full of at this
There-
point in the
there's your answer.
timeline.
Chrome
Thor
এর
then
সাথে
comes back to the
ঘুরতেছে।
harbor
But কি
bridge and
দেখতেছিস?
convinces everyone to stop the party and clean up after the Predator takes it upon
So,
himself
অন্য
Thor
জায়গায়
doesn't
নতুন-
even get to arrive on
অন্য
Earth and finds
ওয়েবসাইটে
so his literal writing a happy ending until
Mozilla কি নাই?
Ultron arrives
Firefox
with his
developer
army
আছে।
through a portal. Now this
Firefox
Ultron is
আমার
from a
developer
different
আছে।
timeline where he defeated the Avengers and successfully
source.
uploaded his
আরে
consciousness
আমার
into
যে minimize
the
হয়ে
Mind
যাচ্ছে
Stone
কেন?
with the
আমার
Time
ওই
Stone
click
being in the
লাগতেছে,
center,
what the fuck?
indicating they hold much more significance compared to the rest of the stones. Now what's interesting here is that even the Watcher was caught off guard, so he may still be under the impression that the multiverse do not entangle with each other,
What?
and that's why seeing Supreme Leader Ultron coming to conquer this world took the Watcher by surprise. And notice how Ultron's entire suit works as a gauntlet, enabling him to use the
Type
stones
the
with more
Josh Magi
freedom.
traffic
So
light,
Ultron,
only
trying to
the
one up
Josh
his creator Tony Stark, remained the same here. I guess this is it. The next two episodes could see an endgame level crossover, with the final episode being titled Infinite Ultron. And that's it. This would be my breakdown of What If episode 7 at 0.25 speed. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, grab the subscribe button and turn notifications on.
আমি আর স্ট্রিম দিয়ে বসে আছি
ওয়ানের ওইখানে দাগ থাকে তো
হ্যাঁ।
তোর হিট অ্যান্ড রান একটা কেন চঙ্কু এটা তো ক্রাইম
কি করে আছে এই যে এটা তো আবরার আজকে সকালবেলা না
ও আচ্ছা ওয়েট ওটা আগে হিট অ্যান্ড রান শো করে লাইক একটা সার্টেন পিরিয়ডের পর ওটা কাউন্ট করা উচিত না লাইক সো ডাউনলোডিং স্ট্যাটাসে সবই হিট অ্যান্ড রান
ডাউনলোডিং 30% ক্রস করার সাথে সাথে সব হিট এন্ড রান
ওয়ানের ওইখানে দাগ থাকে তো ওই জায়গা আগে তোর ভয় দেখায় এই যে তুই অন ইন্ট্রা বলবি যে এটা না ঠিক আছে করস লাইক প্রপার ভাবে ইয়ে
ফুল হইছে এরকম স্যাম এস সুরের বাচ্চা এটা কিল লিগা হইতেছে
এস
ক্রোম ক্রোম
এই যে
ক্রোম
সাইফের স্ট্রিম এমন আসতেছে কেন?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
তোর স্ট্রিমের এত বাজে অবস্থা কেন? নাকি আমার এখানে পিক্সেলেটেড হয়ে আসে?
বাজে অবস্থা বলতে মানে কি অবস্থা সেটা এক্সপ্লেইন কর এক্সপ্লেইন দা বাজে অবস্থা
লাইক পুরা
Angle
পিক্সেলেটেড
down.
এন্ড শিট।
চুঙ্কু আমি এখনো বুঝতেছি না তুই কি দেখতেছস
আরে সাইড দেখতেছে তুই ভাই তুই দাদার বান করতেছস
আমি ছোট
এই যে দেখ একটা কালো দাগ দেখছস
কি
চুলের
ওই
উপরে কালো দাগ।
চাঁদের মতো শেপ
বুঝছি তুই নাদের বান করতেছস এই যে দেখ এই আমি তাও তোর
আচ্ছা, এখন
ভালোভাবে
একটু ঠিক
কইতেছি এই যে এই একটা দাগ চলতেছে আর
আপনার
এই
কিছু
যে
দেখতেছেন দাদা কি দেখাতে দেখতে কয়
এই যে দেখ দুইটার পার্থক্য দেখ দেখছস
দুইটা একই জাস্ট ফায়ারফক্স এর একটু ছোট টেক্সটটা স্কোয়াশড
আবরার
বল।
তুই স্ট্রিমে আসছস
হ্যাঁ
আচ্ছা
এই দুইটা পার্থক্য দেখতেছস
না
না
তুই কি দেখাতে চাচ্ছ সেটাই তো বুঝলাম না
এই তুই এখন তোর স্ক্রিন শেয়ার দে কাশিদ
আমি আবার স্ক্রিনশট দিলে তুই জাস্ট তোর কথা আবার রিপিট শুনবি
তুই কি ওই যে
না,
মুনের
তিন চার
কথাটা
কথা।
বলতেছস?
ওই মুনের
তুই-
কথাটা যে
তুই স্ক্রিন শেয়ার দে
মুনে হচ্ছে বাম পাশেটাতে হোলস কম, ডান পাশেটাতে হোলস বেশি আর কি।
হ্যাঁ
ও
তুই
রাইট
share
রাইট
দে।
দ্যাটস দ্য থিং ও আচ্ছা এটার কথা কইতেছিস লাইক দ্যাটস হোয়াট ইউ আর লুজিং ইওর মাইন্ড অ্যাবাউট লাইক
না তুই স্ক্রিনটা শেয়ার দে তুই স্ক্রিনটা শেয়ার দে আন্টি মাগি শেয়ার দে
দিচ্ছি তার
আরে ও
স্ক্রিন শেয়ার পুরো স্ক্রিন নাকি অ্যাপ্লিকেশন কি দিতে বলছিস
স্ক্রিন দিয়া তুই ডিসকর্ডটা দেখা মানে আমার স্ক্রিনটা আবার তোর স্ক্রিন দিয়া দেখা
স্ক্রিন দিয়ে ডিসকর্ডটা আমার স্ক্রিন দিয়ে তোর স্ক্রিন দেখাবো মানে আমি খুবই কনফিউজ শান্ত হ।
মানে তুই যেই স্ট্রিমটা দেখতেছস মানে আমার
ও।
স্ট্রিমটা ওইটার স্ক্রিন শেয়ার
ওইটারে স্ক্রিনশট দিব এজ ইন আমার যে ডিসপ্লেতে ওই স্ক্রিনটা ওই ডিসপ্লেতে আসতো দিব
হ্যাঁ
ওকে দিলাম